Hello and welcome to Mum's Work and Chaos. We all know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, but where is that village? Well, I started this podcast to help you find yours, and I'm joined by some amazing guests this season, talking about subjects such as fast fashion, menopause, sex education and teenage behaviour, just to name a few. So join me this season and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to Mum's Work and Chaos with me, Louise. Today I am rejoined by the wonderful Kelly Taylor, otherwise known as Kids on the Commute on Instagram and TikTok. Last year, Kelly joined me to talk all about flexible working and help answer your questions about how you can apply for it, what it entails, and the different options available. Today, Kelly joins me to talk all about how she has become a full-time content creator, handing in her notice on a 20-year media career and, for some reason, going completely cold turkey on childcare. Kelly, tell us more about your journey.
I can't believe it's been a year already that I've spoken to you the last time I did this podcast. That's absolutely crazy. It has been a roller coaster. Let's start with a cliche, shall we? It has been really interesting. Anyone that has ever gone from a corporate environment to going self-employed will know just what an interesting journey it can be. Because, you know, going from the really dull logistics side of things, you start off with an infrastructure which, to be frank, you take completely for granted when you're working for a big business. Everything from HR support, IT support, payroll support, or just support of any sort. And then you go to self-employed and there's none of that, and you're literally having to start everything from scratch. I had a 3-month notice period, so when I spoke to you, I was obviously still, I was in that really weird period, the limbo period of everyone knowing I was leaving, me trying to get into the headspace of I am leaving, this is happening now, you've done it, pulled off the plaster. And then that scary, oh my God, what have I done? Crying most nights because I've blown everything up. That's how it felt. It felt like I had actually blown everything up.
It's actually funny that you mentioned the amount of support that you get in a corporate environment, because I actually started my career in corporate and then I went on to run my own business. And actually for me, having the freedom for just being able to go, oh no, I'm going to take a day off, or oh, I'm going to have holiday then. All I had to do was let my clients know that I wasn't going to be available. But now, being back in corporate, working full-time in corporate, having to ask for holiday, ask for time off, that's one of the things I actually found the hardest. But something that you did was you actually went cold turkey on childcare, didn't you? Tell us a little bit more about that.
No, that was hands down the biggest mistake I have ever made when it came to being a working mum. That was ridiculous as an idea. I am still paying for it now.
Yeah, I remember seeing it and just thinking, oh my God, what has she done?
Doing? No, because you see, I decided I was going to go all darling buds of May. Everything was wonderful. I was, you know, not quite Earth Mother, but, you know, I was shedding my corporate skin and I was going, you know, self-employed, which meant I was going to have all this time and I was going to take my kids to school and pick them up and read with them every night and sit and do their homework and just, no, none of that, because the school day is so short. It is the shortest 6 hours you will ever experience. And it sounds ridiculous as those words come out of my mouth, but I'm hoping a lot of the listeners will be going, yeah, literally drop them off. And then next minute you're picking them back up again. It was a ridiculous thing that I did. And as I say, I'm still paying for it now. I cannot get my kids into the after school club at school, at the girls' school. There are no places available. It's really problematic. And it's genuinely one of the things that hangs over me every single day, that I begin work and already I'm thinking, I've got to mentally, you have to check out of whatever you're doing by 2:30. A working day. I went from a working day, which realistically the kids would be kind of out of my hair by 8 o'clock in the morning. And then I'd be picking them back up probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, that was a working day to me. And even then, sometimes there still have to be a few emails sent once they'd gone to bed or what have you, depending on what the demand was at work. I don't have that now. And I was actually talking to my husband about it, because he's been brilliant. He works from home kind of a lot of the time. He's having to go into the office a lot more. And he was like, do you need me to start doing some pickups just to at least give you an extra half an hour of work? I'm like, yes, I do. Because the funny thing is, if I could just have until even 4 o'clock, that would make a massive, massive difference. And I've seen it. There's a couple of days a week where the girls will be collected from school for me, one day a week, which is the Friday, which means I've got until about 4 o'clock, 4:30 to work on a Friday, which is amazing. And then on a Thursday, they're both in an after school club. I put them in, I force them to go to that after school club. They do enjoy it, but I do get, oh, Mum. I'm like, look, Mum's got to work. I'm so sorry about it. Get me a lot of the time, but no. And it's only until like 4:15, but it makes all the difference. But I have made a few very interesting decisions that haven't quite played out in the way that I thought they would. So if anyone's listening to this and thinking to themselves, oh, I'm going to be going into self-employment, and one of the benefits of this is that I get to pick my kids up and drop them off, and wouldn't that be wonderful? It is. But it's the shortest 6 hours of your life. You're not going to get a full working day done in that time. Please don't do that. Please have a decent childcare structure, because one of the key pillars of working, and it is working mothers, it's very different for us than working dads. It truly is. If you wish to succeed and have an effective working setup, you've got to get your childcare sorted. You've absolutely got to get that right. Otherwise, you're working on quicksand.
And, make sure that you've got that balance in place when it comes to childcare and working and stuff like that. I mean, like when I was running my own business, I had my daughter in nursery 4 days a week, so that I had that time to make the calls I needed to do, and and like I was distributing bridal, and so I was ringing the shops, I was ringing the logistics companies, I was picking and packing all the dresses as well when they came in, checking them over. And so I didn't have like tons of staff. I had one lady working with me who was one of my best friends, and she was helping with like the admin side of things, because I'm awful at it. And then I had a sales guy over in Germany as well, who was helping sell into that region. And like you can't take for granted the level of like support that you need, but also knowing your limitations about things as well. And for me, having that admin support within my business was so helpful, because it was the thing I'd always put off, I'd always avoid. Like I'd have to sending the invoices was okay, but actually chasing them I found really difficult, because like actually I felt in the end like I was begging for money, which was horrible.
It feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? It really does. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that space, because I've got a brilliant agent, Bonnie at Blink Management, who, big shout out to Bonnie and Blink Management, because they are the ones that handle all of my commercial deals. So any invoice chasing and anything like that absolutely, from that side of things, sits with them and kind of the finance people. That's nothing to do with me, thank goodness. It's just me every now and again going, what were the terms on that? Was it 30 days or 60 days? But, that's just a little note that might go through every now and again. But ultimately, that side of things isn't too bad. But I am having to get stricter with myself on so many aspects of it. My to-do list that I write now, because that's the other thing. At work, when I was in a corporate environment, I would say, because I was managing a team as well, 80% of my time was spent being very reactive to things. So their needs, their wants, anything that the business needed, answering emails, all of that, very, very reactive. And 20% was proactive of my time. When you're self-employed, I'm especially finding right now, 80% of my time is being proactive
Yeah.
and 20% of my time is being reactive. Now, that is a massive shift in the way that you have to operate mentally, physically, everything.
Yeah.
It is very, very different. And I love structure. I love and I basically went from a structure as strong as steel to a marshmallow.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing. And I was looking at my diary and I wasn't even writing things down in a diary. I was all in my head and it didn't work. That's another one of my mistakes. I should just write a book, things not to do when you're moving from corporate to self-employed.
It's so hard, isn't it? And like,
It's really, really
yeah.
challenging. Like and it's only I started being a full-time content creator officially on the 8th of May,
Wow.
2023. It is only now that I have got my diary out and I am marking everything in. I have to block my day out hour by hour. This is when you're talking to the lovely Louise for a podcast. This is when you have a briefing call with a client.
Yeah.
This is when you're writing. This is when you're editing. Because if I'm not strict with myself about when I'm doing things, I'm like that dogging up. Squirrel!
Yeah.
Like my brain has shot off and I'm doing something else. I've got to be... it's almost like there's different personalities, different versions of myself. And the one before the yesterday me, is like, no, because tomorrow you's going to be very distracted.
Yeah.
So I'm going to now structure your entire day, do as I've set, and you'll have a really effective day. If you don't, you're going to get absolutely nothing done. And because of the very short 6 hours, I want to make sure I've got done as much as I can.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. I always make a mistake before the school holidays because I don't like to film when the girls are about.
Yeah.
I like to give them as much of my focus as I possibly can. I don't mind doing a bit of writing here and there when they're having their dinner, but actually filming, I don't really like doing it when they're about. So come the school holidays, if I've not actually created stuff before they start, I've got nothing to put out that week, and that's a problem. So there's all this kind of...
It's like that pre-prep, isn't it? And it's really tricky. You go into like overdrive before they take the time off, and it's like the same for me now that I'm back in corporate. I found it really weird going from having my own schedule and my own business and being able to just put my out of office on and say, no, I'm not working this week, or send out an email a week before saying I'm out next week, so get your orders in now, kind of thing. To and being able to just sort of like take the girls away, to then having to ask for time off. That was really weird, going back into that and like actually having to like sit down with my husband and say, what dates do we need? Because I could literally like take 2 days off at the end of the week and it didn't faze anyone, it didn't bother anyone. It was my time, my business. If I wanted to spend, if I wanted to not earn money, well, I was still earning money, but take that time for myself and my family, I could, and it was very fluid, and I could do that. But when I moved back into corporate, then like the first time I had to ask for holiday, I felt really awkward about it. It felt really weird, like I'm having to ask permission for something.
How did that actually make you feel though, deep down?
It kind of made me feel like less grown up. I don't know how to say it. Like, like you know what it's like when you're a kid and you have to ask to go to the shop. Like you have to say, oh mum, is it all right if I go and get some sweets from the shop or something? Even if the shop is on your road, you still have to ask, don't you? And then when you go off to uni and you get your job and all of that stuff, you're carefree, you can do whatever you want whenever you want. It's your time, your responsibility, you do it, right? But then you become a parent, and then you have kids, and then you want to go for a night out, and then you have to ask mum and dad to come and help again. It's like, can I go out for dinner tonight? Is that on my, like, with my husband? No kids? Is that cool? Yeah. It's like, and so it's really weird, like when you go back into a corporate environment, and then you're like, please sir, can I have Can I have 2 days
Yeah.
off on on the week of, you
No, but
know?
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was
Ian and I
really weird.
literally at the moment are talking about a summer holiday,
Mm,
and because he's still in corporate employment,
yeah,
I was like, well, just tell me when you can get the time off. My time is my own, literally. And
exactly.
that, again, is both a blessing and a curse. But it's like, my time is my own. You just tell me when you want to go. We can go whenever, as
Yeah,
far as I'm concerned. There's no issues. There's a few weddings and things planned in here and there. But other than that, it's
nice.
like, it's a bit freer for him. It is one of the aspects of what I'm doing now and the shift into this that I am very much loving. I am loving
Yeah,
the amount of freedom that it is my own time and I can do with it to an extent what I want. But at the same time, that's also quite scary
yeah,
because the structure's gone. You can literally be like, oh, I can just do this here and do that there. And I know I'm not making the most of my time or the opportunity of freedom that I have. I've
yeah,
spoken to friends of mine who are also content creators who think I'm absolutely bonkers because I am still very much in that corporate mentality of
yeah,
Monday to Friday on my working days,
yeah,
and I work when the kids are at school, and I write and I film and I edit and I do my accounting and I do everything kind of within that framework. I don't often go to events because I am going, no, no, that's cutting into my working day,
yeah,
rather than thinking, events are also part of what you do now for a job.
yeah,
Still can't get used to that. So I'm like, no, no, that cuts into that. And it's I don't know. It's really hard to shift into that, and I think there's a lot of
yeah,
imposter syndrome that comes with it too. Of I know how privileged it feels to be able to do what I'm doing now, to have been in an environment where, and again, it's just I can only talk to my experience, where even though the setup was really good in terms of flexible working and remote working and everything that I had,
yeah,
the measurement of success for me at the moment is quality of life, and my quality of life has just changed hugely
mm,
from now being able to step into this opportunity and do it full time, because I'm around for my family more, I'm around for my friends more. I'm not as much of a grumpy cow as I was previously. I still have my moments, do not get me wrong, but the energy levels that it takes to be a parent, you need a lot. You need to have a
yeah,
lot of energy when your kids are being quite challenging and all of that. And when I was working in corporate, I didn't have the reserves.
yeah.
By the end of the day, there was zero left in the tank.
No,
So my parenting was quite shouty, to be honest, when I was working in
I
corporate.
feel you with that one.
It's not as shouty now.
Well, that's
Um,
nice. That's good. I mean, like I work remotely full time, which means that I can sort of like move a lunch break and like, and my boss is very flexible. So we're able to like say, oh, we've got the Harvest Festival. Is it all right if I pop along to that and I have like less time at lunch? Yeah, that's cool. As long as you get all your work done, that's great. So I'm
exactly.
really lucky in that respect. But then there's lots of things I can't go to. Like they do, like a midday problem solving thing at school, and parents get to go down and see their work and see how they like handle the tasks that they're given at school and stuff. And there's things like that that I just can't go to, or I can't go and help with, taking the class on the swimming trip. I want to, but I can't. And so there are benefits that come with things like that because I don't have the time to do it. But equally, I feel like there's the guilt that comes with it as well. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, so and so's mum came with us to go swimming. Why can't you? Or so and so's mum comes and reads with us. Why don't you? And stuff like that. And I mean, if I was still running my own business and I had the option, I don't think I'd want to do it.
No, but
So
look, I don't, I can see it from both sides in the same way that you can. That I've got to remember walking Abigail to school once, and we bumped into a friend of mine, and she was like, Ella's mummy comes and reads to us. Why don't you? And I was like, well, unfortunately, mummy's work, it's very difficult for me to do that. I think I said something like, oh, because mummy's working. And she went, well, Ella's mummy works and she finds the time.
Yeah.
And she was she was self-employed and had the flexibility to do that. And it was a dagger to the heart because, like you say, that guilt just kicks in and you just think, oh, I feel awful about this. But then we can't do everything. And even when we do have the time to be able to do it, you don't often want to. Like, I'll be frank, I get guilt the other way when something does come up and it's like, well, you could potentially do that or make the time to do that, but you can't do everything. No. And it's difficult. Our schools got a lot better at putting activities for parents on end of day.
Yeah, nice.
Rather than middle of day.
Yeah.
Because middle of day is really, really challenging for so many parents, and so many parents at our school work. And they've made it easy. And again, and a lot of us, the self-employed, it's really challenging for us to go in the middle of the day as well, because it completely smacks into something. So that's really quite hard.
Off, doesn't it? Like, even like if you go in the middle of the day, that's it. Like you said, you've got this finite 6 hours to get stuff done. And then and that throws off the routine that you've so carefully cultivated for yourself to keep you on track and everything as well. And
it does. The other thing I'd say when it comes to kids, they have very short-term memories. So in the same way that you'll get, why don't you come and read with us? Why didn't you come and do this? Other people's mummies and daddies do this. Yeah. Great. You can be playing with them all day at the weekend, and then they'll tell you that you never do anything with me, or you'll give them the most incredible, school holidays, taking them to all kinds of places, having brilliant times, and then they'll be like, oh, did you enjoy the holidays? Not really, we didn't do anything. Or you'll find out they've turned around to their teachers and when they've been asked, what did you do? Nothing really.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so annoying.
I think sometimes that guilt is prompted by a false statement by our darling children.
Oh, 100%.
There might be a little bit of truth of, oh, why don't you do this? But sometimes I think it's just a genuine question. Well, how come they can and you can't? But what you hear is, you are a terrible parent. How is it you don't love me enough to come in and you love your work more? That's not what they've said.
No.
That's not what they've said. It's another inane question that they're asking.
Yeah. I think sometimes they have to you have to put that filter on it, don't you? You have to like reframe the question in your own head, because yes, you're hearing, you're crap at this, you're a bad mum, you didn't do this thing, and that's not what they said at all. They just want to know why didn't you do it, or why can this person do this thing, or why did Florence go skiing in the winter and we stayed at home?
It's all of those kind of questions you get asked them all the time. So Ian took Grace to Rome for 3 days over the half term. Now, one of the reasons we did that, and we're definitely going to stick with this kind of formula moving forward. Yeah. Grace did the Romans. She really wanted to go to Rome. We talked about the 4 of us going for about 3 seconds, and then we thought there is no way Abby, who's 5, is going to want to walk around the Colosseum and the Pantheon. Also, I don't know if people know this, but the queues to get into these places, once you get there, can be an hour and a half. Just wasn't going to work. Yeah, no. We decided it made more sense for Ian to go and take Grace to have the opportunity to go and do something like that, and we would keep Abby at home with me, and we'd go and do the play farms and the soft plays and all of the other things that she wants to go and do a little bit close to home. Anyway, Grace got back after 3 days with the dad, and then accused me of never spending any time with her. And I was like, you've just been to Italy for 3 days, and I couldn't physically be there because it's another country. I really don't understand. And it was really interesting, because then we had a bit of a breakdown of that conversation of there were certain statements she was making, like, you don't spend any time with me. I was like, okay. Yeah. And we had a chat about all the things that we do together, and she was like, oh yeah. And then she made a statement of, and you always give me things I don't like. And I was like, are we talking food? Yeah. I don't really understand. And then we broke it down. And ironically, it was a Sainsbury's shop coming that evening, and I listed all the things that I had deliberately bought for her that she'd asked for specifically, that I was now coming. She's like, okay. And then she was happy, and then she just went off and toddled to go and play something. And I just thought, we put a lot of, I don't even know what the word is, weight maybe on ourselves from statements that our children make, when actually we know in our heart of hearts our children make a lot of random statements. And immediately we go guilt, and we're terrible, and we're triggered by it because we're like, oh God, we should be spending our time. The reality is none of us can spend all the time with our children. None of us, very few of us, really want to do that because also we're allowed to have time for ourselves, and we have to have that. We have to be able to cultivate our own careers, we've got to run our own lives ultimately. And it's really challenging because when you become a mother, and I think you and I spoke about this on the last time we chatted, that society says to us, you are now a mother. You are no longer the priority. Your children are now the priority. Put them first in everything that you do. That is a very, very dangerous narrative to have. We should not do that because we know ourselves that when we don't look after ourselves, when we prioritise our children and everything else above our own health and well-being, we crash and it doesn't end well for anybody, including ourselves. I know that, again, making that career pivot from corporate to doing something that I wanted to do, to following what felt like a dream or a risky path. And occasionally in my lowest days, I thought I was selfish for doing it because it felt like I was blowing up this incredible not family structure, but like routine that we had going as our family, and it worked nicely. It'd been working nicely for years, and I was just going to blow it up. But because I decided to put my own needs and wants first, everyone else in my family is now reaping the benefits of that. They had to put up with a few meltdowns and tantrums in the early days when I wasn't quite sure what I'd done or why I was doing it, and the anxiety and self-imposter syndrome kicked in. But on the whole, everyone's reaping the benefits because of putting my own needs and wants first, and that's kind of what we have to do.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And like before we pressed record as well, we were talking about like the all the effort that goes into what you do, and how it's not just a quick hold the phone up, speak. There's all the planning and the writing and the concept and and all of that stuff. And it's not like there's some content creators who copy other people or pull together things that other people have done and pitch them as their own, but everything you do is original, and it's amazing to see the amount what I love what you produce anyway, but for me now, having done a couple of bits myself as well, I totally understand the amount of effort that goes into it, and all the boring editing time as well. It's so difficult. Like making
a secret. I love editing. I hate filming. I hate filming, which is why it seems a ridiculous move into content creation to admit I hate filming. I love writing. I love editing. The edit is genuinely where the magic happens, because you can film something and in its raw state you're like, what have you done? That's gonna just tank on unbelievable levels. And then you get the edit right, you get the music right, you add in sounds, you do whatever you need to do, you title it, all those things. There's so many elements to it that have to pull together to make it work. And then you go, oh, I mean, the editing literally can polish a turd. It's absolutely incredible the magic that can happen when you do that. And you're like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's actually going to do okay.
For me, with the pod,
I love that side of things.
I'm editing bits out, and I'm just like, and you're moving the dial, and then it just goes that like 1 second too far, and you're like, and then you move it back, and it's 2 seconds out, and you're trying. It's like,
What do you use now? What are you using to edit on?
At the moment, still Canva. I edit with Canva. I know.
No. Splice.
Really?
Not an ad, people. Not an ad. For me, the best editing tool that I've used, and a lot of my fellow content creators use, is Splice. It is excellent, and it takes away all of that skipping a second and moving this and moving that. It's so precise, and especially for me, I really appreciate that, because a lot of what I do, you know, a lot of mine is edited to music. So I do quite a few reels now that have to be on the beat. And I can't have any of this a second over or anything, otherwise it just doesn't sit where it needs to sit. So it has to be that. And I can sit there literally pulling it so it's at its kind of longest form, so I can get it down to like the tiniest, minutest nanosecond to make sure it's hit that beat. Nobody else probably notices this.
Yeah.
So I look at it and go, no, it did not hit the right beat. That isn't, or it's not the right movement, and I need to re-edit that and shift it. But that is what makes the difference. It's that kind of, it's not just me, I know a lot of other content creators do it. Like you, I don't know, you obsess over the most ridiculous thing. Like there's a bit where you've put your arm in the air and then there's a beat, like, no, you're out. The arm needs to go up at the same time that part of the sound hits.
Yeah.
Otherwise it doesn't work. Nobody else will notice this. You obsess over it because that's what it needs to do. That's what, if you don't do this, it's going to tank, which is rubbish to tank.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, one of your latest series that I've absolutely been loving and can relate incredibly hard to is your I'm a Mum of Girls, of course, series. And your latest one about hairbrushing, again, like massively hit me today. I literally got the hairbrush, my middle child was sat there and she just went, ah, don't do it, don't, no, it hurts. I'm like, a brush hasn't even touched a hair on your head yet. It's driving me mad.
Thing is, I am a massive hypocrite because there is a running joke in parts of my family because I was terrible. I had hair basically down to my bum when I was little, and anyone even showed a hairbrush. If I heard a hairbrush coming out of the drawer, I would just go bonkers. Like it was ridiculous. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite taking the mickey out of the girls for that one. It's true. I get the brush out. It's like hair wash night. I think that's the worst, actually. Like brushing it in the mornings. Mum, you're being too rough. Mum. It's like sometimes I'm literally stood there with it in my hand going, nope, haven't touched you yet. Give us a sec. It's hair wash night. Yeah. Because my eldest, I don't know how she does it. There's always this one knot that I swear I get out every single time, but it gathers all the other hairs in and then just becomes this nest on the back of her head. And then I'm just sitting there literally like with all kinds of lotions and potions on in the bath, combing it through, lumps coming out of this. Oh, it's horrendous. It's awful.
My middle one has curly hair, and curly hair knots really badly. Oh, yes. And it's like fine and curly. Yeah. And so like we have to do, you know, conditioner in the bath and all of that stuff. Week before last, it was bad. Conditioner in the bath, was brushing it all through, and I made it worse. And we got her out of the bath, and I looked at my husband and I made that split decision, and the scissors came out.
Yeah, nobody likes to make that decision, but sometimes it's to shove and you just got to go for it.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be sick, and I started crying, and my daughter didn't even know what I'd done. She didn't have a clue. Like, she didn't have a clue that I cut her hair. And she's looking at my husband, and she's like, Daddy? And Syl's like, no, you've done well, good job. And I'm just like, dying inside that I've had to cut all these beautiful curls off.
Hair is our statement.
It's our whole identity.
Of course it is. You know, and luckily, you know, our kids sometimes don't even notice that. But even now, like, Grace has decided she wants long hair. Well, she has got long hair anyway. Yeah. But we got it cut a few months ago, and it was still long. It was still below her shoulders, and she was fine with it until she saw it in the mirror, and I could see that bottom lip going, and I felt horrendous because I was like, oh God. She hates it. And she was trying to she's, bless her cottons, she's such a little people pleaser. So the hairdresser's going, you're okay. She's like, mm-hmm. And you know, when you're looking at them going, I wanted to cry because she was so upset. And I was like, oh no. I mean, it looked beautiful. It honestly did. But she was so upset. And our hairdresser's absolutely wonderful. So she was like, oh God, what did I do? I said, you've not done anything. Yeah. Said that's what she asked for. But clearly, it goes. The great thing about hair is it grows. It grows.
Exactly. And another one that I could really relate to, again, it's my middle one, is socks. Socks, tight.
Crunchy socks.
Oh, you have to get the line right on the toes with her, otherwise it's like the whole world has just gone into oblivion.
It's lines, it's lines on the sock, and it's also where the heel part sits.
Yes.
Because Abs went through a stage of, I mean, socks actually brought me to tears quite a few school mornings. I'm big enough and ugly enough to admit that, because I'd get her dressed and then literally I pull out the socks so I can hear the da, 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 I'm kind of like coming toward her with the socks, and I could just feel the anxiety building of, oh my God, she's gonna have a fit at me. And she'd just look at me. And what I ended up, and anyway, she just kicked the socks off and it was horrible. You get them on, I don't like them. And then she pulled them off and you've got to do it all over again. And it was really horrid. A couple of things we did that helped with that is we got bamboo socks, which became game changers because they've got no seams on them.
No,
they're incredibly soft. I mean, the elastic, unfortunately, around the ankle is terrible, so they don't actually last that long before they're slipping down, but hey-ho. The other thing we did is we got fold-down tables.
Oh, okay.
So Abby we'd put the table there and she'd sit there and have a breakfast in a pad, and her little feet would be dangling down.
Yeah.
So while she was watching, I was talking to her and slipping the socks on. She couldn't see it because the table was blocked, like a trestle table, it was blocking it. And I was able to slip the socks on while talking to her. Shoes were with me. Shoes would go on really quickly too. And then they were in, and then she was done. And we'd continue our conversation. I wouldn't miss a beat. And then next minute, she's got shoes and socks on. She's not even noticed.
Yeah,
so that was my... But she won't wear tights. She will not wear tights at all. And it's because of the seam and where it sits on her tummy. She doesn't like it.
My eldest won't wear trousers. She just doesn't like trousers. So, like, literally, she's always been, like, at nursery, everyone called her the rainbow unicorn, because she always that headband, you know, with the unicorn horn, always the tutu skirt, any brightly coloured top, nothing matched. That didn't matter. And so when she started school and it was grey pinafore dress, dark bottle green jumper, shirt with a tie, and tights and the whole shebang, she just looked at me and she was like, "Mummy, it's so boring." And so she'd come home from school and she'd literally just chuck on like a princess dress and stuff. She doesn't do that anymore. She quite likes her school uniform. She's nearly 8 now, but she will not, like, she went through this whole phase until recently of not even wanting to wear leggings or socks. She only wanted tights and dresses, and that was it. And like even trying to convince her to put like shorts on under summer dresses and things. She not interested. Didn't want it. She just no.
It's a personality thing, isn't it? Like, what I really appreciate now is a lot of the school uniform retailers really are going kind of the extra mile to create different designs and pieces for school uniforms, because it must be really hard for kids that, as you say, they've been able to wear whatever they want for so long, and then all of a sudden it's a uniform, and obviously a uniform means you're looking similar to everybody else. I mean, back in my day, especially, about your day, but school uniform was the same. There was no individuality. Nowadays, and again, I really appreciate this, you know, girls can wear trousers, they can wear shorts, culottes. The pinafores have got hearts and stars and zips and not zips and pockets and pockets and all sorts of things. And I really appreciate the effort that people kind of retailers are putting into making school uniforms, because it allows the child to kind of have that the uniform they need to have, but also have a little bit of individuality within there as well, because otherwise they just lose a bit of it and it's just not fun.
Where I went to secondary school in Enfield, every school had their own kilt. And so,
we had that in my primary school.
Yeah, and so like every school had their own kilt with their own colours. Even the new school had a kilt, but it was just plain grey, but it was still a kilt. And so it was like an unwritten rule that was what school you wore to school at every school. And so it didn't matter if, you know, like even like the new school had the grey kilt, you couldn't then wear like a grey sort of like pencil skirt or a different kind of grey skirt. It had to be the kilt. And so it's just really funny. It was like you could easily spot which school you were from by the colour of the kilt. And the type of plaid you had, and it was just so weird. But
it's the same around here. I mean, you can identify the kids by the colour of their cardigans, because every school's got a different colour cardie, and you know, therefore, you know, where they're all going. But again, like, you know, talking about your daughter doesn't like to wear trousers, I've got one with Grace who wants to wear trousers to school and does wear trousers to school. And it was really challenging, because at first, when she said this, we couldn't find any girls' trousers that actually were working. It was the boys' ones we kept having to buy, which again, they don't fit quite right. And then, not an ad, Georgia Asda was very impressed with what they've got, and they're the best trousers we've ever found for her. Really comfortable, very feminine in the way they've been designed. She's really comfy in them, but she feels her. And that was one of the biggest battles, that with school, she just didn't feel like her with what she was wearing. She didn't want to wear dresses. She's not a dressy kind of person. She's much preferred to live in trousers, and now she gets the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, we buy a lot of school uniform from Asda. We've got one very locally to us, but equally, I found that I hate ironing, and everything comes out wrinkle free. I love it, and even the shirts are tumble dryable. And so my eldest hates long sleeves with shirts, because when you put your cardi on, the sleeves roll up, and so she doesn't. That's caused a lot of meltdowns in our house.
We just taught the hold the sleeve. The sleeve.
We've done that. It doesn't not
working.
No, doesn't cut the mustard in our house, unfortunately. So she wears short sleeve shirts, but then she also wears a blazer to school as well. That's a
well, that's an extra layer, isn't it?
And so my mum was just looking at her the other day coming home from school, and she was just like, she must be so hot. She wears a vest, a shirt, a pinafore dress, a vest, a cardigan and a blazer, and then she wants her coat as well. Like, she's a polar explorer. She's always cold.
None of the opposite. I'm walking to school in the morning. Even this morning, it was a bit nippy.
Yeah.
And they're both just carrying their coats.
Yeah.
Actually, they're carrying their coats. I'm carrying their coats. I tried to ask them to carry their own coats, but that wasn't going to happen. That's fine, I'll just carry them. And they're both just walking in cardies. The other day, we left the house and Abby wouldn't put a cardi on. But I am now learning very quickly, I don't have the energy for those kind of discussions in the morning. And actually, it's much better for her to come to the realisation that she's cold herself.
Yeah.
So we just literally walk out the house now. Abigail, would you like to wear your cardigan? No, fine. We'll carry on walking for a bit. Mummy, I'm cold. Would putting your cardigan on solve that problem? Yes. Okay, should we do that then? Yes. And it's fine, because she realises within 5 minutes she's not going to walk all the way to school. Well, she'll prove me wrong one day, without a cardi. But I'm like, do you know what? On your own terms, love, because I'm not going to argue with you. Getting to school is stressful enough.
Well, it has been lovely having you on again, and I'm so glad you agreed to join me. I love our conversations. I love watching your work. I love following you, and I'm so glad that although the transition was slightly rocky at the beginning with your cold turkey, no childcare situation, it's worked out for you so well in the end. I mean, like, if your account is growing phenomenally anyway. I watch obviously everything you do,
Thank you.
and I just love your work. So I will, encourage my listeners, please do follow Kelly. She's hilarious. If you are, a mum, especially of girls as well, please do follow her for the most hilarious comedy content you will find, and it's incredibly relatable. So thank you so much, and I'm so pleased that it's all been going so well for you.
Yeah, onwards and upwards we shall see. But thank you so much, and thank you for your support. And look, I'm not daft enough to think that I could just keep putting stuff out there and it just happens on its own. It doesn't. It happens because of all the incredible people that send me messages and comment and engage and like it's really lovely. We often talk about women supporting women, and I feel that every single day. I know it's a bit sucky and icky for some people, but I absolutely love it. I love the fact that people message me and tell me their stories of their painful school trips and whatever else they've been going on. I absolutely love it. I love hearing from people. So yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. Love the podcast.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode of Mum's Work and Chaos, please make sure to subscribe on whatever podcasting channel you're listening on at the moment. Or if you'd like to get involved, feel free to email me at mumsworkandchaos@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at mumsworkandchaos. See you then.